But the world of tourism is impossible without the world of hotels. And we are lucky enough to be in the presence of a legend, Mr. Veer Vijay Singh, who also happens to be
Who also happens to be your father.
also happens to be my father. I've had front row seats to seeing a big chunk of his career.
Yes.
Confucius used to say that if you choose a job
Yeah.
that you love,
Yeah.
then you never work a single day in your life.
Correct.
And
Very
that
true.
really happened to me. I promise you, in 40 years that I've been in the Taj, I never felt that I was working. And the Vivanta name was coined by us. There's no word as Vivanta. It started off with Viva, something is life, to be full of life, and then we made it Vivanta.
When I used to go to the Leela before, it always felt very grand. Like anything that I did, anything that I purchased, anything, if I was dining or even if I was having a cup of tea, it felt extremely grand. That is not the same feel anymore. You enter the hotel and you can tell that it's gone down not a single notch but a couple of notches.
The problem is that whatever profit is made from hotels, you have to reinvest it back into the product
Yeah,
because
infrastructure
A,
costs,
it's a
yeah.
very human intensive industry.
Yeah.
You have to have a lot of employee to keep that level of service. You have to keep on spending money on maintenance to
Yeah.
keep that quality up there. You have to constantly keep on working on it.
But then this thing happened on 26/11. That's all history we know of that. And they came in. There were about 4 people who entered the Taj. In the initial stages, they thought it's some kind of a gang war. When you do yourself something with your own hands, people will just follow. You got to be able to adjust. So this industry is not for some people who are extremely fastidious about timings, and I have to go at this time, and I have to be off on so and so date. You got to learn to be passionate.
The world of tourism is so vast. We all go on holidays, we all like to stay in different cities. But the world of tourism is impossible without the world of hotels. And we are lucky enough to be in the presence of a legend, Mr. Veer Vijay Singh, who also happens to be
Who also happens to be your father.
also happens to be my father. I've had front row seats to seeing a big chunk of his career.
So
But-
have I. I mean, like we've gone to a lot of parties thanks to Mr. Singh. I mean, using his name
While you were in HPS.
while we were in HPS. Yes, I mean, like we used to get some sort of discounts, and we've seen the inside of a hotel thanks to you.
No, well,
So-
my belief has been that a hotel should have all different age demographic kind of people coming there. So
Right.
it should not be only something which attracts, say, 30s and 40s or very high rich net worth people. It should also have younger people coming in.
Sure.
Because the people who are coming today to your hotel at a young age are your future customers.
Yes.
So I'm sure you have great memories of that hotel and you will sell that.
Memories I can never forget, and other people also haven't forgotten. We were very young and very, enthusiastic about going to a hotel, I think, and we've had some great memories. But Taj Krishna was one of the most iconic hotels in Hyderabad, and you were responsible for that hotel for a really long time. Tell us something about your journey and what it was.
So my journey, if you talk about entirely, I started off, I just wanted to be in the army.
Right.
And later on, I changed that, and I said, no, hotels, I think, make most sense, because I had an uncle, and I went and saw his office, and I saw that he gets wonderful meals, and he gets a lot of great service, and so I
Right.
loved that at the Rambagh Palace in Jaipur. So I decided joining the Pusa Institute in Hotel Management, did hotel management in Delhi, and I joined the Taj in 1976. That too, I had I would say a dream or a vision to be working at the Taj, the great Taj, because I went as a young boy to a function and I was sitting outside and I was looking at this magnificent building,
Right.
sitting from the Gateway of India and looking at the Taj, and I was absolutely mesmerized. I said,
Right.
I've got to be in this property someday. So the Taj, Bombay, the Tatas, House of Tatas,
Yes.
inspired me to be a hotelier.
Okay.
I joined in 1976 and continued for 40 years with the Taj.
Wow.
So that
You
was,
don't see that often, huh?
No,
Where people
no.
stick to one company
I
their
know,
whole life.
But I think that's with our generation. With their generation, they're very, how many years have you worked in with one
Yeah.
entity, and
Yeah,
that's
you're
what
right.
proves your kind of loyalty. I feel, and
Yeah.
and for us, it's so different. Like we want to venture and explore new things every third day. We are thinking now, let's do this now, and let's do this now.
100% right.
Yeah.
I think it's, as I keep seeing, the different generations, and the baby boomers had different requirements, and then Generation X and Generation Y and
Yes.
Generation Z and the millennials, and everything has changed.
Right.
The basic Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy needs has changed totally.
Right.
So earlier it used to be very basics, accommodation, clothing, food, all that has changed. Today the new generation already has that.
Yeah.
So you are not worried about that. You're looking at different challenges.
Sure.
What you need is a different environment. So in our time, we had loyalty. Yes, was very important.
Yes.
I also happened to be a Rajput, so Rajput loyalty was always known as.
Of course,
so I
yes.
stood by it. But things have changed. Today, people feel that if you change jobs, you learn much more. But I totally don't believe in that. I was anyway in the 40 years that I spent with Taj, I worked with different bosses, different styles of leadership, different style, and it was very interesting. So I learned different things. I personally felt that I was continuously growing, and
Right.
why would I leave a company where I'm growing?
Correct.
Sometimes people leave their companies when they think that they can't grow.
Right.
So they try and find another alternative job which gives them a few thousand more. But I didn't believe that. And I was very lucky. I started off as a supervisor and I finally retired as Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. So
Wow.
that is what I think my career was in 40 years. But Hyderabad was an extremely important, I would say, part of my career.
Right.
I came here in 1991, 92 when I was general manager of the Taj Banjara.
Right.
And Surya Veer used to think that I'm the owner of the Taj
Oh,
Banjara.
lovely.
I never understood otherwise. I just thought he's the boss. Everyone's saluting him.
So did we, quite honestly. For the longest time, we only heard Veer Vijay Singh, and that was the only name we heard. Yeah.
Yeah, and that time our managing director was Mr. Ajit Babu Rao Kerkar. And he kind of encouraged general managers and senior leadership to feel that there's a sense of belonging.
Right.
And that company that you work for, it belongs to you.
Yes.
So we gave in everything. We gave 100%.
Wow.
I worked for 40 years, 12 hours a day, not taking holidays, not taking off days, no sick leaves. I don't remember any Christmas, New Year's, Diwali, Holi where I was at home.
Right.
So that was how it was. So it was a very strong sense of belonging. Banjara, we were able to change. My food and beverage business went up by 100%.
My God.
So it was great 6 years. And then I was called back. I moved to Taj Bengal in Kolkata. But I was called back as GVK Group signed a strategical agreement with the Taj. And so the Taj GVK was formed.
Right.
This was a Krishna Oberoi hotel that had opened in 1988 or so.
Right.
So
It never made profit under Oberoi ever. And then when Taj took over,
Right.
there was a little bit of a turnaround, as you would say.
Yeah, there was not just a little bit, I would say total turnaround. The Oberoi ran it for 14 years.
Okay.
And it had a 14 crores loss.
Wow.
The Taj took over and we renovated the property in 2000. We opened it and it just transformed. And from a 16 crores turnover, in 5 years we took it to 120 crores.
My God.
And the average room rates went up, the occupancies went up, the profits went up tremendously. We did a 68% gross operating profit.
Oh my God.
So
That's-
if you had to kind of understand, as all normal Indian hotel goers, we always see, okay, Taj is somewhat like, we have a very amateur sort of an understanding. How would you differentiate a Taj from an Oberoi or an ITC? What is unique about these three different brands?
Yeah, this is just a very interesting question, and especially for the hospitality and hotel industry. As you know, the Taj came in 1903. So it's one of the first luxury hotels of the country. Jamshedji Tata's dream. The Oberois also came in 1937. Rai Bahadur Mohan Singh Oberoi started off with the Cecil Hotel in Shimla.
Right.
He was
And,
like a concierge. He was like an employee in the hotel.
He was working at the Clark's Hotel in Shimla, and his boss saw him and saw his dedication. And then the boss was a British gentleman, and he bought over the Cecil Hotel. And as he was leaving the country, he decided to sell it at a very, very special price to Rai Bahadur MS Oberoi. And it is a great story that Rai Bahadur's wife sold her entire jewelry to get the funds arranged. So they did that and they bought this hotel, and then it's history, because the second property he took over was a 250-room hotel in Calcutta, the Grand, the famous Grand Oberoi Grand Hotel. So the Oberois, of course, have always owned their properties. They have about 37 properties all over the world. They own those properties, and I think the unique selling proposition for them has been they give you very high quality service. And they're known for very high quality service. They prefer only luxury customers. And the food, I would say, mostly is known for the continental cuisine. Very high quality housekeeping. Whereas the Taj was very well known for Indian hospitality. So the warmth came from the Taj. So there was an old saying that, the Oberoi sometimes preferred one guy having champagne vis-a-vis a Taj, 50 guys having a cup of tea. But for the Taj, even the guy who came for a cup of tea was as important the guy who was having champagne. So it became very popular for the local resident guests and local, I would say, non-resident guests, the domestic customers. So the Taj started out the food and beverage concepts, and they came up with the Chinese restaurants, the strong Indian food, regional cuisines. Whereas the ITC was a combination of the Oberois and the Taj, and became very well known for somebody like Major Rahman, who started the Bukhara and started the Dum Pukht. So they became extremely well known for the Northwest frontier food, for the Dum Pukht from Lucknow. So some of the best Indian cuisines were there in ITC hotels. Today they are a cash-rich company, so they have very, very large hotels. So I think these are some of the unique features which differentiate these three groups.
It's very, very interesting field, because whenever you go to a hotel, there's small little bits, but there will always be a cultural difference in hotels.
100%. Every time you go to a hotel, it's always different, and it's always their ethos is different. Like I always enjoy the Taj because they give a lot of benefit. Like you take the Taj membership, and whenever you come there, you have a much better benefit that I have experienced. In my experience, I've had a much better benefit. So they're more, I feel, customer oriented rather than more show. I think it's a lot of show as well, but they are more focused on the customer as well.
I think you're very right. I see a hotel, I've always believed really goes around the characteristic of the general manager. And so it was a very people-oriented business. And so the Taj always believed that the general manager plays an important role. He should be given all the freedom. He should spend long hours there. He should be seen in the lobby. And all that he does, the way he dresses, the way he talks, the way he moves around, the way he's warm with the customer, finally filters down the entire staff, and the characteristic of the hotel goes around him. So certain businesses, especially the industries, are more process oriented. So I think what's changing now is that the hotel groups are trying to become more process oriented. And they say that let's not have a situation where the general manager goes away and everything falls down. So rather have a process in place. And so things are changing. They're becoming extremely more process oriented. I think it's a fine line, a fine balance that has to be maintained between the personality of the general manager and his team and the processes that they follow. It should not be that tomorrow you don't find your captain in the restaurant and you suddenly think that the whole service has gone down. Somebody else should recognize you. Somebody else should be able to give you what you like. So there has to be a combination.
So
I always say, like, for hoteliers, you have to be a hotelier, you have to be a little bit off also in the head.
Why would you say that?
It's because they make you work mad hours. You will never have a Saturday, Sunday, pretty much. You're working Christmas, New Year, forget about it. And you're severely also not paid as much as what other industries are paid as. But it's the passion. You have to be a very, very, very passionate person.
Not only passion, I think you have to have like a love for service. I feel that service is so important. Like, you must enjoy doing it. Like if I'm around I love to, take care of the whole situation that's going on, and help if somebody, okay, you don't have this, so I'll get you this, or whatever. So I enjoy that thoroughly, and for me that was a very, very important factor for me. Also, like, I started with a restaurant, and it really helped me. It really helped me grow as a person, because you kind of meet so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and it really. My restaurant, I felt, was a accumulation of my personality, and what I don't like.
You started the Olives in Hyderabad, I believe.
Yes, a friend of mine and I had started an Olive in Hyderabad, and it ran very well for a certain amount of time.
Iconic is one of the most successful restaurants in the city.
So we had a fun time, and but the thing is that every time the structure got very corporate, I really got more and more dejected. The most important factor for me to leave this business was it was getting too corporate for me, because I felt that, okay, processes are great, but after a certain point there's no connect. I enjoyed that connect with every guest who came to the restaurant, or I love to connect with them, and I wanted them to feel the hospitality.
How much time did you spend in the restaurant? Initially?
I think all my life. At that period in time, like,
so while you were there, you were in the restaurant.
I was in the restaurant.
That's
I was constantly in the restaurant, sitting in the restaurant. I was eating there. I was meeting people. I loved spending time in the restaurant.
But then
only.
you stopped at certain times.
There's a burnout also at some particular point.
There is a burnout as well, but also the thing was that, like, once the party thing got a little hectic for me, like, to just be around people drinking all the time, just took that I think that proposition of that love that I had for that, it just went away, because it was constantly, I was dealing with too many drunk people, if I may say so. Like, I didn't enjoy that very much.
You must have seen a lot of crazy things in your like, I'm sure there's never a boring day as a hotelier.
No, so you were right. First, what you said was true. You need to be extremely passionate. I don't know if you want to be mad. And what you said is true, that you've got to be really somebody who loves serving. And a lot of people don't like that. I mean, for me, it really makes a lot of difference if I can make sure that the customer who enters, the guest who enters, is properly taken care of.
Right.
And everything till the time he leaves. So if you love that, then the whole thing is easy. As Confucius used to say, that if you choose a job that you love, then you never work a single day in your life.
Correct.
And that really happened to me. I promise you, in 40 years that I've been in the Taj, I never felt that I was working. There have been difficult times, and I won't say that, but I've loved each and every moment.
Right.
And so, talking about different moments, there have been great moments. The surprising thing, Surya, is that all our best customers were people who are customers who were complaining.
Yes.
So sometimes, it's very important to know that somebody who just comes, doesn't get great service, just doesn't complain and goes away, is not your best friend. Because he doesn't give you a chance to improve.
To win him back.
Yeah, to win him back and to improve and to make amends to what you've done wrong. Whereas a customer who complains, in the beginning he's difficult to handle. And but if you leave your ego on one side and your motto is to see that you look after the customer and you see that you rectify that situation, and you do it patiently, you win him. So some of my
best... lot of problem solving, basically.
Problem solving, and finally you win him, and he becomes your most important customer and most regular customer.
I agree. He tells you for free what you're doing wrong.
Exactly. So my best friends that I've made in the Taj are some of the most difficult customers. So, we had some great stories where we had most difficult customers coming in, and how would they behave. Most of them we're not supposed to reveal those secrets.
Of course.
But one question is, like, India has also changed a lot in these last couple of decades. You've been working in hospitality since the 70s. What have you noticed in Indian hospitality specifically since you started till the 2020s, this 50-year period?
So first, I mean, in the 70s, when you tried to join the catering college, people would laugh at you, I wasn't a great student. I was not getting first division marks. So I chose this industry. But people would say, are you wanting to become a khansama? a cook.
Yes.
Do you want to become a waiter? That's the kind of thinking what people had. But when we went through those 4 years of hotel management courses, we realized that there's much, much more. It was very intricate. There were 12 to 14 subjects, nutrition, and you name it, the bookkeeping and finance and catering and bakery and so on. Those are also the days the customers really thought that when they entered a hotel, they literally have that hotel belongs to them.
Correct.
So the behavior was very, very bad. Sometimes, snapping the fingers, calling you like that, and thinking that a waiter is somebody they can literally bully. So we went through those things. I sometimes had stories where I had some juniors from my school, from Mayo, who came to the restaurant in Shamiana and behaved badly because they knew I was senior to them. But we needed to be very patient and handle that.
You have to put on a mask basically and
course.
with a
Literally.
different personality.
Yeah, literally. So you should not be ashamed of picking up a plate or a dirty plate or somebody lighting somebody's cigarette. So the customs were very different that time. But all that has changed. We worked long hours. You could say we worked like donkeys sometimes. We enjoyed what we did. There were difficult times, but there were a lot of fun times. So we believed that work hard and play hard.
Right.
Today things are also changing. So you may not work that hard. You may have 10 hours duties, but you don't have that much fun also. Things are changing. You don't have the same kind of camaraderie. The fraternity is not the same strong. I mean, I even worked with my competition and they would help me when I needed something.
Right. Yeah.
If I needed certain wines which were to be sold to a VVIP guest, I would call up the Oberoi general manager or the food and beverage manager and I would get that from them. And vice versa. So we had some great stories. I mean, I remember, talked about stories. I mean, when we opened the Taj Palace Hotel in Delhi, we had some great thing. We had the YPO, the Young Presidents Organization.
Right.
And I remember the inaugural day, the uniform for all the restaurant managers was a black jodhpuri coat and a black trouser.
Yeah.
And two of our chief guests who came there that day were Rajiv Gandhi and Amitabh Bachchan.
Okay,
and not realizing what is our uniform, they also wore the black jodhpuri coat and black trousers. So they walked into the hotel and they thought they were shocked because we were about 20 of us wearing the same uniforms.
Right.
But we had some great speeches. I remember Dalai Lama spoke, Karan Singh spoke very well, Rajiv Gandhi. Finally, we once did and the general manager wanted to get this YPO conference, Mr. Veer Vijay Singh wanted to get it in a hotel. And so the team came and they said, but from this lawn, going down to the lawn, it will take us about 4 minutes and we can't afford it. So he says, no man, I'll make a staircase from the top. And we were all looking at him. But Mr. Bhaumik, as he was, he managed to make a staircase right from the swimming pool to the lawn and the people could go down in 1 minute. So that was great. I remember the things that you promise sometimes you need to deliver. But when we did a leading hotels of the world convention, we had something like 300 general managers all of the world coming to our hotel in Delhi.
Right.
And we took them by train, early morning train from Rohilla station to Agra. And the station, we washed the station. We ourselves washed the station. We put carpets on it. We washed the train. And we had our own announcements. Gitanjali Malia did that. Gitanjali Iyer, sorry. And we took these people to Agra. And we served them breakfast. And we had everything. And the customers were trying, the general managers were trying to, make fun of us. So somebody would say, can I have a cappuccino? Can I have a Ovaltine? Can I have this? We had everything on the train. We took them to Agra, showed them the Taj, had a lunch there, and when we brought them in the evening back, we gave them matching wines with the different courses. So all that was done on a railway, in an Indian railway. So there were some great experiences, wonderful experiences that we've done. I remember when I was in Delhi, I went as food and beverage manager, and we had the non-aligned movement, and there were something like 40 head of states staying in my hotel in Taj Mahal, Delhi. So interacting with them, looking after them, there were some great opportunities. The Chogam happened in Goa, great thing when we made.
So, like, for example, Goa also, like we all see Goa today as it is as a beach destination. But there's a very interesting fact that Goa would not have been a beach destination in India if it wasn't for Taj. Actually,
Really?
Very true.
Okay.
So what had happened was in 1970, 71, when Mr. Kerkar made the Taj Intercontinental, the tall building, he wanted to get more guests coming in. So he asked Camellia to go to America, and they did a study, and they said, why would you come to India? And they said they would come for either the palaces or the beaches. So luckily we got, at the same time, The privy purses were finishing. So we got the Rambagh Palace, the Lake Palace. For Goa, the story as it goes, the Chief Minister realized that we were looking for a beach hotel. And he drove about 36 hours in his ambassador car from Goa to Bombay to meet Mr. J.R.D. Tata and meet Mr. Kerkar.
Chief Minister is
Yeah, wow.
traveling
Joe.
just to meet, just to ask them, make a hotel.
Make a
please.
hotel.
Can you make
yeah.
a hotel in Goa?
Yeah.
So they went there, and Mr. Kerkar has been in Goa, and he used to play cricket in his Fort Aguada area. So he remembered that space, and he chose that space, and they grew something like a few lakh trees in that space. It was an absolutely barren land.
Wow.
And that's how the Fort Aguada, the holiday village, came in. And all advertisements during those times only talked about Goa as a destination. We talked about the food, the churches, the temples, the culture, the music. We didn't even talk about the hotel. In the end, we just had a line saying Fort Aguada Holiday Village, Taj Hotels. So you were right. In early 70s, we started promoting Goa. Today, it's a destination all over the world. The Taj also gets the feather in the cap for promoting Kerala as a destination because we did a tie-up with the government.
Yes.
And we made those hotels. And of course, we played quite an important role in promoting the palaces and the forts
So
and
that's
the
the
heritage in
unique
Rajasthan.
thing also about India is that a lot of palaces, Indian heritage palaces like Rambagh, Lake Palace, and so many on Umaid
Heritage
Bhavan.
sites, I think, not
Heritage
only
site-
palaces.
If
but
and they're part of the Taj chain, also Oberoi's and ITC as well, but majority Taj as
Taj, yeah.
well. It's is it challenging to convert palatial homes into hotels?
It is very challenging.
Falaknuma as well.
Falaknuma,
Yeah, so I was just
exactly.
coming to that. I had a personal experience of getting the Falaknuma for the Taj. While I was here in 92, in 94, 95, the Nizam offered it to us, and Mr. Kerkar had asked me, and I was very much involved in taking over the four palaces, the Falaknuma, Chaw Mohalla, King Koti, Nazari Bagh, and Chiran Palace. So Falaknuma, then we kept held it for about few years and did the entire renovation. So as you're saying, challenging, it is very challenging because these are old buildings, they are heritage buildings. You have to maintain the heritage.
Yes.
You can't play mischief with that heritage. You have to then see that the restoration of these palaces are extremely difficult.
Yes.
And not only the civil part, but the carpets, the fabric, the paintings, the artifacts, all of that requires a lot of immense, I would say, dedication and restoration. So it's a difficult thing. The rooms are all different sizes. They're not made for a hotel, so they're only made for a couple of people to stay. The rest are just guest rooms, or they were just some other rooms. They all need to be converted. So it's very difficult. So I think to get a 50 to 60 room palace hotels is very, very, I think, a large number. Taj has been lucky. We got some of the best palaces. The Rambagh in Jaipur, the Lake Palace in Udaipur, the Umaid Bhavan now in Jodhpur, and the Falaknuma in, of course, Hyderabad. So it's I would say, a big feather in the cap. And all these palaces are extremely unique, different type of service, different customs and traditions.
Like the
So
Lake Palace in general, just one thing. That is a very like geographically it's in the middle of the lake.
Yeah.
How does that work, like operations wise? Does everyone have to go in through a boat, or what are the challenges?
Yeah, so it's a challenging thing because there was only once I know when the water finished and people walked into the palace, but that was sad. It was a very bad time. It's a lake palace. It was built basically as a palace for the you had the main palace, but this you would just go for a picnic or for a holiday or for some romantic dinners. And this we took over. We just had few suites there, but today we now have larger number of rooms. When I say we, I'm talking about the Taj. So it was very challenging. The staff coming on boats, the guests coming on boats, to ensure that the maintenance of the palace is well done. The sizes of the rooms are not very large. So it is unique in many ways, but it's very, very romantic.
I have a very different question. Like everybody says 5-star hotel, and then a 7-star hotel came up. What is the difference? And in the new world, do we need a 7-star hotel?
Yeah, so there is nothing like a 7-star as such.
Yes.
Basically, each country has its own classification
Right.
and categorization of star hotels.
Right.
In India, we have 5-star deluxe,
Yes.
5-star, 4-star, 3-star.
Right.
Middle East and UAE and some parts of the world, when they made something grand, they just, I remember the Burj Al Arab.
Yes.
Burj Khalifa.
Arab.
Burj Al Arab, yes,
Yeah.
yes. The
Arab.
sea sail.
So that became very, very, for the first hotel where they started calling it a 7-star hotel.
Right.
Basically, they just meant that it's larger than the best of best hotels.
Yes.
But there's no such need, or there's no such classification.
There is no such classification. It's just marketing.
Yeah.
It's a lot got to do with also the facilities which are offered. So a 3-star will not have a swimming pool or a
Right.
gymnasium. A 4-star might have. A
Yeah.
5-star will definitely have to have at least so many amount of restaurants in it. So there's mainly based on classifications rather than just quality.
Right.
A lot of it's got to tick certain boxes.
Yeah, so you
as
could
well.
have some very unique boutique hotels
Yes.
which do not have some of these things, but they are really very classic. So very, very beautiful hotels.
Any example would you?
No, I would say sometimes, let me...
Like Taj Mahal.
the Taj Mahal has 13 rooms. Now for a
in
5...
Jaipur, it's
in
the
Jaipur.
ex-residence of the.
So
the
it may not
kings.
have too many restaurants, it just has 2 restaurants. So
Right.
sometimes it doesn't classify to be a 5-star deluxe if you do not have 3 restaurants, or you don't have large banquet hall
Right.
for conferences. But yes, you are very boutique, you are very unique. See, in India, some of these hotels, I think it's very important to really understand in India, one of the first 5-star, or I would say luxury hotel that opened was the Great Eastern Hotel
Right.
in Kolkata. It came up in 1837.
Wow.
It now is with the Lalit Group. The second hotel that became very popular was the Connemara in Chennai, Madras. It opened in 1857.
Right.
But the real luxury hotel as such opened the Taj Mahal, Mumbai in 1903. And the great history we all know of, that Jamshedji Tata opened that.
Yes.
Because he went to one property which says that dogs and Indians not allowed. So he wanted to make a hotel where everybody was allowed.
Yes.
So iconic hotel. There's a huge story saying that the hotel was built on the wrong side, but that's not true.
As we see, like with time, generations change as well. Hospitality is also have to change. We've seen hospitality brands also changing, like W, for example, worldwide. So different from the normal gloves and silver tray service, whereas W, they have a DJ in the middle of the lobby and a bar, which is a big no-nos from before.
Yeah.
And you were spearheading the brand Vivanta, which was on the lines of a new, younger brand. What kind of forced Taj or made Taj sort of think of, let's come up with a more younger brand, and how was that experience of starting Vivanta?
Yeah, so I think the Taj for so many years only had the Taj brand.
Yeah.
And so when you went to a small property, a 25-room hotel or a palace or a 200-room hotel or a 600-room hotel, you always landed up. The name of the hotel was Taj. For the Indians, it was easy to understand that. And they realize it's a Taj hospitality and all that. But for the international customer, when he's coming from, say, United States or America or from UK, they don't understand why these different types of hotels are all called Taj. So the branding exercise was done, and Mr. Ratan Tata asked us to do a branding exercise. So, a big exercise was done. We went to 5 continents. Our agency went to 5 continents and did a questionnaire. And finally, they came up with a answer that you need to now change. You need to be also catering to the younger generations. You can't be always just having the same style. So you could have the Taj hotels for the those who have arrived, those who require very classic service. But then for the younger generation, the millennials and all, you need to have a younger brand. And so the Vivanta by Taj was created. And I was given the responsibility. I was not that young, and it may not have been really ideally suited that way, but I think I, of course, professionally adapted to that. And the Vivanta name was coined by us. There's no word as Vivanta. It started off with Viva, something is life, to be full of life, and we made it Vivanta. And so we were quite liked, if you want to say, is quite similar to the W styles. They were much younger. We did not want to do very servile style of service. We needed to be much more, comfortable. The staff had to be more educated. which could converse with the guest. They do not have to be too formal. That kind of a thing. If you knew somebody, you could call him by the name, first name, if the guest doesn't mind that. So some people in your hotel would call you Shiraz, or you would call you Surya. So that kind of a thing. So all this service, and we did a lot of work. So we made 32 very unique styles of services that we would do in Vivanta. We would make all experiences. Today, the millennials, when they go, they just don't want a good luxury room, but they want a creation of experience. Okay. So we created experience around each hotel. So like you went to the Maldives, the Vivanta Maldives, at 4:30 you would go and feed the stingray. And when you did that, it remained in your mind for many, many years. So there are very unique things, When you went to the President Hotel in Bombay, you had the Dabba service. You were told about how the Dabba service works. Right. So those kind of things. Vivanta, the staff uniforms were different. The style of service was different. The touch points were different. The experiences were unique. I think it started off very well. And I think, I don't know if you know, but yes, we were rated as the third best hospitality brand in the world by Condé Nast Readers Award.
Right.
So 2.5 lakh people surveyed, and they rated us the third best after One and Only and Peninsula.
Okay.
So it was a matter of great pride.
Yes.
And we were competing very well with Westin and W and Hyatts and Sheratons and so on and so forth. And we were rated very well. We were one of the fastest growing brands in India. And international. So we had hotels all over the world, in Australia, in Malaysia, in Sri Lanka, in Maldives, in Zambia, and Africa. So it was a fast growing brand. Of late, yes, it has changed. The new management has thought of making it a little one step down, one notch down. So I do not know how unique it is now. But yes, I think that's something. So each company starts looking at different branding, so we can have a larger segment of customers.
Sure.
So that was the intention behind Vivanta.
But if you see any hotel person would kind of know, there's certain brands which control numerous other brands within it. So Marriott, I think, is one of the biggest brands in the world.
Yeah.
They have around some 30 brands under
You're
them.
Right.
Then we have Hyatt as well, has its own sorts of brands. Taj has its own sorts of brands. Accor Hotels has its own sorts of brands. They're massive around the world, and they're competing. They're competing for the space of hospitality. And I think when COVID had hit, a lot of these different brands, they had to come up with new ideas. How did COVID kind of affect this industry, and how did they survive?
So two things. The first thing is brands. Yes, the Marriott today is the largest brand in the world. It has 7,700 some hotels. It has 40 lakhs rooms. It has 37 brands. So these companies now, followed by, after that, it would be Hilton's, it will be Wyndham, it will be Accor Hotels. They are the big chains.
Four Seasons. I worked with them for 6
The Four Seasons is a luxury brand.
Yeah.
It uniquely differentiates itself. Doesn't really go on multiplying just by franchise and such things, but they uniquely run some 150, 130 very, very good hotels.
One of my favorites.
Yes, it is, no doubt.
Yeah.
So, but talking about these big brands and so what they also do is, as I told you, they're trying to get the larger segments of customer. So, like the levers does, the famous levers, it has 10 types of toothpaste. So you're not, when you use any one, you're not realizing you're still using that toothpaste. The same things with hotels. So the Marriott today they bought over the Le Méridien, the St. Regis. They have bought over so many hotel chains that you don't realize, but they're all part of the Marriott chain now. So Marriott has really grown. It's very, very large. But sometimes those people who always went to St. Regis still would go to St. Regis, not realizing, but it now is belonging to the Marriotts. So the JW Marriott, then the Marriott, then Courtyard Marriott, same is with the Hyatt. So they try and keep you different brands to serve the different strata of customers. It could be age demographic, it could be economically different requirements from different price ranges. And automatically, as per the brand, then they have different service standards, brand standards, SOPs. So that's the only way they do it. The Wyndham has many brands. It's also growing very fast. Accor, it's another one. The Novotels, and they have so many other different brands. And India, of course, the big brands are, of course, as you know, the Taj, the Oberoi, the ITC, and the Leela. We did some very unique hotels.
Leela is a very ultra luxurious brand as well.
100%. I used to love the Leela, but now it's suddenly, I think it's dropped down its standard quite a bit. They've been
What
losing
happened
some
was,
properties.
Captain Nair,
Yes.
who was the founder of Leela,
Yes.
in 80s,
Right.
after his tenure with the Navy,
Yes.
started this when he was 65 years old.
Right.
So it's a great story. And he make these unique hotels, luxury properties, but it's now been sold to
Yes.
Brookfields. And so they have bought the property. So now Leela as such doesn't have any more managing or control over these properties.
Sure.
But the brand name still continues Leela.
Correct.
So that's happening. So some of these big companies like Brookfields or Blackstone, they are large infrastructure companies, financing companies. So they are buying over these properties.
When I used to go to the Leela before, it always felt very grand. Like anything that I did, anything that I purchased, anything, if I was dining or even if I was having a cup of tea, it felt extremely grand. That is not the same feel anymore. You enter the hotel and you can tell that it's gone down not a single notch but a couple of notches.
I'll tell you the problem is basically it's linked to commerce.
Yeah.
So hospitality, hotel, everyone thinks that, hotel, you own hotel, you must be very rich. The problem is that whatever profit is made from hotels, you have to reinvest it back into the product because
infrastructure costs,
it's a very human intensive industry.
Yeah.
You have to have a lot of employee to keep that level of service. You have to keep on spending money on maintenance to keep that quality up there. You have to constantly keep on working on it. Whereas in other industries, you can just make a profit and reinvest like 5% of it back into running it.
But that's the thing. Like I think when these finance companies buy over hotel chains, that's the only time when they look at it and they're
yes, because the finance company won't care about quality.
Yeah,
they're
they
just
don't care,
caring about the P&L.
Yeah, bottom line.
Yeah, at the bottom line, because
Yeah.
unfortunately that's the problem. If anyone wants to really make a lot of money, I would suggest then don't get into hotels.
Yeah,
But if you
exactly.
want to get into fame and enjoying
Yes.
life, then hotels is
Yes.
good. And of course, you'll make money if you're in a location is very important, I would say.
100%. So so one is some people got into hotels for the desire to really make money and mint money. Now, unless it's the land cost which multiplies, that's a different way of doing it.
Yes.
So you buy a property today at say 100 crores, after 10 years it's worth 1,000 crores. So
Correct.
that way is a different thing. But trying to make money from just running hotel operations, it's not so easy because your gross operating profits vary from 30 to 40%.
Right.
So if you
and return of investment, it takes like what, a decade or maybe more?
No, in hotels it used to take 7 to 9 years. So you're coming close to decade, 10 years. Today it's taking more. It's taking 12 years. So one is that yes, the return of investments is slow. It's high capital intensive. It's large number of staff. The Taj Bombay with 620 rooms once upon a time had about 4,000 people.
Wow.
So I remember when we went to Shangri-La or the Oriental in Bangkok, you had every lift elevator had one girl to help you to take you up to the floor, and
Right.
they will press the
Button.
elevator buttons for you. So there were the different things. But when when you start getting very, very financial oriented and you want return on investment, then those things start going away. So that is one part. But you talked about the COVID part, and yes, COVID has played havoc. It's played havoc for the tourism industry and for the hospitality industry. The last 2-3 years from 2020 have been terrible for the entire world as far as tourism is concerned. The travel business nearly went down. You didn't have airlines connecting different countries. International tourism died literally. India used to get something like 10 to 12 million foreign tourists. But India has had about 24 million Indians going out of India. So that stopped. So I had predicted that time that these Indians can't go out, automatically they'll be coming back to your country.
Correct.
And so domestic tourism will surely support, and that happened. So the first support went to around your big cities. So if you were in Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Madras, around those cities, if you had a resort, people wanted to just drive down for an hour and come back. The second support went to the hill stations, and people wanted to rush as soon as things became better. And the third were the resorts and the beaches.
Yeah.
So they really picked up. The biggest travelers have been Gujaratis. So all around near Gujarat.
Thank God for Gujus.
Yeah,
Really.
no, they are controlling the market, the life, everything. I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
It's all in the Gujaratis'
Yeah.
hands only now.
That's true.
But you were talking about Taj Mahal Hotel. That is one iconic property which every Indian, if you have to think of, just name a hotel on the top of your tongue, it's the Taj Mahal
Taj, yeah,
Hotel.
yeah, of course,
And
Taj Mahal, yeah.
we all can remember back in 2008 when the terrorist attacks happened in 26/11.
Yeah.
That was when every Indian was just glued to the TV, and they had a sort of a sentimental attachment with the Taj
Still
and the
do,
dome.
I think, like today.
Still
or-
more than
yeah,
ever
yeah.
as well. You were working with Taj at that particular point. I think you were not in Bombay at that point.
Yeah.
What did the hotel go through?
Thank God for that.
Something which you can share with us, which the common people don't know about those attacks.
So Shiraz, I was offered something that I think many people nobody would know,
Yes.
but I was offered the post of the vice president and general manager of the Taj Bombay during that time.
Wow.
And I was called by my managing director,
Right.
Raymond Dixon, and he offered me that post.
Right.
And I don't know why, but I said no. I'm already in Hyderabad. I love the city.
Yes.
I had something like 8-9 hotels that came under me, and I was looking after them under Taj GVK portfolio.
Right.
So I declined. And he said, "Are you sure you're declining a very important portfolio?" I said, "No, Mr. Dixon, I'm happy
Plus
being
one
in
to
Hyderabad."
Hyderabad.
So I stayed back, and unfortunately, or whatever it is, destiny, my friend and colleague Karambir Kang was chosen, and he was given that post. He also had 2 sons, like I had 2 sons. I have 2 sons.
Yes.
He also had 2 sons, and they were staying in the hotel. And as Surya is asking what happened, it was, there were rumors already floating that there is a planned terrorist strike in Bombay. And automatically when it happens, which are the iconic properties? So Taj Bombay would have been one of them.
Yes.
So the security had really been taken up, and we were being very careful and we were being very cautious. But then this thing happened on 26/11. That's all history we know of that. And they came in. There were about 4 people who entered the Taj. In the initial stages, they thought it's some kind of a gang war, a typical Bombay underworld gang war. But by the time they realized that the kind of weapons they were carrying and the way they were, retaliating when the police went there or the Marines went there, they realized that there was something outside the country, the terrorists from Pakistan. And so they were there literally for 2.5-3 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they created havoc. And I must say that the Taj staff really were exemplary. Harvard has done a study that what was taught to these people. Why would somebody being faced with a gun or a bomb right in front of him not leave his job and run away?
Right.
Well, the first thing that somebody would do, if somebody just walked in here, I would try and find a way out and run out.
Right. Of course.
Why wouldn't somebody do that? I mean, even in the airlines, they tell you that if there is ever a problem and the oxygen mask falls down, first put it yourself, then you put it on the child.
Yes.
Here, there were the terrorists attacking basically with only one intention of trying to attack the guests.
Yeah.
But the staff didn't leave. They went, took the guests right till the time office, bid them farewell, asked them to go out, and came back into the hotel.
Extraordinary.
That's mad.
Yeah.
That's
There
amazing.
are-
That's the culture.
There are great stories. There was somebody, a Parsi gentleman, who was going to get operated, and he saw on the television that Taj was attacked. And he just told his wife, "I'm going down," and he sat on the motorcycle and went straight into the Taj and got into the Taj.
My God.
And he went into...
Like
but-
police was
but
afraid to enter
the-
that.
And he didn't work in the Taj. He was working in
Wow.
Taj. He was working in Taj flight kitchens.
My God.
And
but
he
it's
went
so
into the
commendable
Taj.
for some people. They have that inbuilt. I
The
feel
sense
it's
of
a-
belonging, the
sense of belonging.
commitment.
Yeah,
This
the
is my
commitment.
hotel.
Yeah.
He went inside and went to the CCTV room and stayed there. And later on, he was shot on his knee. He is absolutely, even now he cannot walk properly. His knee is totally fractured. Every bone was fractured. So the stories are tremendous. There were 16 customers of ours, unfortunately, who were martyred and they passed away. And there were 18 staff members who died.
That's so sad.
And they didn't have to be. I mean,
Yeah,
they were
they-
not supposed to be. They just stayed back. They were serving champagnes. When there was a guest, there's a story, a guest picked up a bottle of champagne from the bar.
While the siege is taking
Yes.
place.
Right.
And the waiter ran towards him. And the guest thought that he's trying to say, don't drink this champagne. He said, so he said, no, sir, you want to drink champagne? Just give me a moment, sir. I'll get you some nice champagne tulip glasses so you can enjoy the champagne.
Wow.
People were serving sandwiches, they were serving food.
No wonder it is the most iconic property in India, I feel, like with such stories is that makes it. I mean, like, it's not just land and a monument, it's the people that are there and such stories. The culture, it's beautiful.
The people worked, I mean, I know many staff, like I worked for 39 plus years, but I know many people who worked for 40 years, 35, 40 years. Yeah. So it was, there was such a strong feeling of family.
Yep.
And I don't know, but if I was there, I would have done the same thing. The general manager at that time was more busy trying to save the lives of the guest and could not take care of his family, and he lost his wife and 2 sons.
That's shocking.
So it was, it was really, really sad and shocking. So there's some great stories. It didn't happen in other properties. It didn't happen in other hotels. It didn't happen everywhere else. But the Taj, it happened. And it's exemplary to say that Mr. Ratan Tata took the responsibility of looking after all those who were hurt or killed during that time. Not only in the Taj, in the Victoria Terminus, at the Oberoi, anywhere. Anybody who was affected, he took care of them and their families, gave them jobs.
He is quite a different person to any other businessman, you would say. Like, he always says in many of his interviews, he's like, I'm an industrialist. I'm not a businessman.
Very true. Yes. It came up from, of course, our founder, Jamshedji Tata.
Of course.
And Jamshedji Tata had 3 visions. He wanted to make a hotel, the Taj Bombay, which he did, the best hotel in the world. He wanted to make steel, because that time steel was like gold. And he wanted to do a hydroelectricity. In 1870s, he talked about hydroelectricity.
Wow.
Later on, it followed by J.R.D. Tata, who was for 54 years the chairman. And great gentleman. I can't, he's my hero. Who I worship, hero worship. And I had a chance of interacting with him. And then Mr. Ratan Tata. So the Tatas always believe that what comes from people must go back to the people.
They're heavy into philanthropy and to anonymous philanthropy. They don't like to
brag
call
about
media
it,
and say, look, I'm giving this many crores. It's all secret. And they live also very simple lives as well.
They're not into I would say frugal in that level. Mr. Tata, Ratan Tata lived in a flat. They said the most expensive thing in his flat was his music system.
Right.
He's fond of his cars, so I think you're also fond of cars. I mean, he's also very fond of his cars and dogs.
Yes.
And as you know, the story goes that he was getting an award by Prince Charles.
For his,
he was being called and was going to be given an award for his philanthropy and the kind of thing that he's done. And he, last minute, just 48 hours before that, he declined. And he excused himself, saying that my pet dog is not feeling well. And you will have to please excuse
said no to
me.
Prince Charles.
I mean, that's insane. But like, that's I think the psyche of
his
the man.
humanness and the psyche of the man.
Prince Charles even said when he heard that, he just said, "Now that's a man."
That's the reason.
That's
the reason I was.
Exactly.
That's the reason I would like to give him an award like that.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody would be like, "Oh no, I'm getting the award for dog." Like no, but that's a humanity. I think.
So I've met many industrialists, many businessmen, and from all over the world, and when I tell them that this is the way the Tatas work, that all the revenues, all the profits go back to either charity, either hospitals, or for innovation and growth. They can't believe it. There are 100 companies, more than $100 billion a year turnover.
Yes.
But the ownership of that is not even 1% with the Tata family.
That's brilliant.
I wanted to ask also one particular thing, like my whole life, wherever I go, I say, "Oh, your father is a legend, Mr. Veer Vijay Singh," and all. And I'm like, okay, yes. But one thing which a lot of people keep on saying is your leadership style. Because you worked with a lot of people, like an average hotel has 300, 400 people. What is something in your 40, 50 years of working in the industry, have you learned about basic ways to motivate people to get the best out of them? And what sort of a leadership style did you sort of emulate?
Yeah, a very interesting question, and for me it's my favorite topic. As a small child, I used to be walking with my mother when she was the lady in waiting of Maharani Gayatri Devi of Jaipur. And when we went to the Taj Mahal Palace, she used to first go to the staff areas and sit down with the Kuch Bihar maids.
Right.
And they used to come and tell her everything, what are the problems they're facing. And then she would go to the Maharani and she would somehow or the other get those solved.
Right.
My father used to be going for shoots and he would get into anybody's house and not knowing any caste, he would have a glass of chas, buttermilk, and there was never any differentiation between color, caste and creed. So I grew up like that. So that's number one. Number two, they say the best leadership is something which is without ego. There's a wonderful if you can do what Mahatma Gandhi did, or somebody, when you do yourself something with your own hands, people will just follow.
Yes.
I believed in the same thing, that when I was in a restaurant manager and you were there in your restaurant, so was Surya.
Yes.
I would not even tell the staff. I would sometimes just pick up a tray and go and start clearance.
Sure.
And if I did that, staff used to just come in, hold my hand, say, please sir, don't do that,
don't
sir.
do that, yes.
And that's what the way you lead. Now, there are different leadership styles. There is a democratic style, there's a dictatorial style, there's a paternalistic style. The fastest sometimes response and fastest results you can get is always dictatorial style.
Short term.
Yeah, it's a short-term gain. So if you're tough and you just scare people and you give orders, then things will be done.
Yes.
But it's always short-term. If you want long-term, it has to be involved. It has to be something that you do inspirational, which happens by democratic style. When you ask everybody, but you have to take decisions yourselves. You can't keep on being indecisive.
Yeah.
The paternalistic style, which is very father, you should listen to me, guy, and I tell you this, and you do it, and I'll look after you. And if you don't listen to me, then I'm going to not support you. Now that's an old style which used to be there. So, but again, you have to mix your styles at different times and different places. So as you said, different strokes for different folks. You can't have just one style that you follow throughout.
Of course.
So it has to change at a different time. But yes, it has to be something very involving.
Yes.
Something that you do with passion and you do yourself as a leader from the front.
Yes.
If you can do that, in long term, I think that's the best style that will help you to grow.
It always helps when to hear from somebody who's so experienced and to see the kind of depth that he has actually gone through and experienced this whole top to bottom. But would you ever want to stop? Like, is there a feeling I want to put my feet up one day and just relax? Is that a...
So, we got into this business where both my sons are with me.
Yes.
I was used to having something like 12,000 staff members reporting to me.
Right.
And they would do what I tell them.
Yeah.
I didn't do it like a dictator, but they would do it.
Yes.
And they loved me, I was taken as one of the great leaders. Yes. But when I have two sons, they're both my, detractors. They are always there to tell me this is not
of
right,
course,
and they will not. So it's very interesting.
Yes.
It was great learning. But asking this question, that would I like to stop? Like Surya would, there are times he says, now move. So my first step has been that I've taken a step and I've moved out from Hyderabad and moved to Jaipur now.
Right.
And I feel that Surya and Vishwaveer now need to start taking responsibility.
Yes.
But will I like to stop? I don't think I can. With my kind of life.
The workaholic. Majority of my life I've seen him. Yeah. He's always worked on Sundays as well, like that. He just
But I think that's the work ethic that gets you here.
It's rare. It's rare. You have to.
But Shiraz, I don't want to say that I never had that feeling that if I'm not there, work won't happen.
Right.
So that was not my style of working.
Right.
I don't believe that Surya can't take over or Vishu can't take over.
Yes.
I'm sure both of them can. I have confidence in that.
Yes.
So did I have with my team.
Of course.
But it's only that my presence was required. See, in Indian hospitality, if you go to a hotel or you go to a restaurant, you have certain people you want to receive you, to talk to you.
Of course.
80% of the things are already done. If you go to a restaurant and you meet a chef, and the guy says, "Sir, you're good. You're here. I'm making something very special for you." 80% things are done.
Yes, of course.
So that's how we Indians are. We are very warm. We are very caring. We understand. We like interactions. So I believed in that. But talking about I have not got tired.
Yeah.
I have told people and I say that I am retired, but I'm not tired. So I'm not tired and I have a lot more things to do. I don't still want to go on proving something. That's not anymore left. I've been very lucky. God has been kind to me that things happen right for me. So I'm very thankful for that. But talking about future, I may like to do different things.
Yeah.
I may like to go around the world. I may like to, but not stop.
Yes. Veer Vijay Singh is never going to put his feet up.
No, but now, like in what some people would say a second innings as well, where you're not really required on the floor of a hotel that much anymore. what has been really occupying your time and interests?
Yes.
So as I moved to Hyderabad, from Hyderabad to Jaipur, my passion was to build a home for myself. So I did a very uniquely different home. It's made out of stone, no bricks, no cement.
Wow.
So that was interesting. And so me and my wife and my pet dog Bono are there, and we enjoy, our company. We enjoy the home. I have some family properties. We have a 250-year-old fort in our village in Dunlod, which we want to convert into a fort hotel. We have a property in Jaipur. I also want to travel a lot. You may be surprised, but I'm getting a little bit religious. So I do want
Spiritual, yeah.
Yeah, you can say spiritual, that's the right word. But I mean, I want to know, I want to visit my Char Dhams, I want to visit the religious places. I also want to see certain part of the world which I have not seen as yet. So,
is there some parts of the world that you haven't seen?
Yeah, I want to go to South America. I haven't been to Russia as yet. I want to go to Japan.
Right.
So there are a couple of places. Rest I think I have, but yeah, I do want to travel. There's still that urge to travel. I'm going to Vietnam on the 25th.
Lovely.
And one last question. Advice to people who want to join hospitality as an industry.
Yes.
Yeah, so as Shiraz was saying, that the youngsters want to keep jumping, and I personally feel that I still believe that rolling stone gathers no moss.
Right.
I'm not against people jumping and looking at different opportunities. Why not? You should keep learning more.
Sure.
But it is not that you'll only learn because you change your job.
Sure.
So please don't keep on jumping jobs.
Stay
At
there.
least stay there for 3 years.
Ride it
See,
out.
in my time it was 5 years, I would say 3 years. Stay in a company, see what you can, try and adjust, and I'm sure you can grow, you will be able to learn much more. In this industry, we cannot be too specific about working hours. You must have a good work-life balance. I'm not denying that fact. We lost a lot of time with our children. I know I came and the boys used to wait for me at 12 in the night. So when the next day morning when they went to school, they were half asleep in the class. So that was difficult. But today, yes, you need to have work-life balance. But you can't tell a guest at a certain time, then sorry, I'm going and now the restaurant is closed, so I'm going to put off the lights and you can walk out. You can give a
That does
timing.
work, yeah.
You can say my last order is at 12.
Yes.
But you can't say you have to get out of the restaurant at 1. Sometimes customers will keep sitting there. Sometimes they are having a party and they want a bottle of champagne at the last moment. You got to be able to adjust. So this industry is not for some people who are extremely fastidious about timings and I have to go at this time and I have to be off on so-and-so date. You got to learn to be passionate. The young people who want to make a career in the hotel industry now, I would feel that A, they should not jump jobs too often. They should at least remain in each job for minimum 3 years. Number 2, do not be too concerned about timing, because in this industry you cannot leave a restaurant because your duty timing has got over. So you should be able to understand that. And number 3, and most important, is that you got to be passionate. You got to love what you're doing.
Something which is very much lacking in the
of
industry.
course, I
But
guess.
but thank you so much. I
Thank
learned so
you.
much
Yes.
about this
It's a
industry.
pleasure. I think I'm learning myself, and I must compliment both of you for the lovely job that you're doing. And
Well-
I listen to each and every
Oh, wow.
podcast of yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you.